Hello, thank you for watching my talk on the paper called Authors Hidden in File Revision Histories, an Empirical Study. My name is Gong Siyi. I'm a PhD student at Shanghai Jiao University. I would also like to thank you my PhD instructor, Zhong. First of all, let me introduce the motivations of this research. Figure 1 shows the history of a source file. We can see from this figure that two authors had committed this file. That's to say, multiple programmers can contribute to a source file. When programmers check out a project, they see the latest versions of source files, but the authors of source files are often hidden in the revision history. To deepen the understanding on code authorship, we conducted the first empirical study on code authors. To assist our study, we implemented a tool called Coda. Table 1 shows the dataset. With Coda, we analyzed the 12,092 source files that were written by 506 programmers. In this empirical study, we explore the following research questions. RQ1. How many commits of an author are modified by follow-up commits? Some code authors are hidden in file revision histories because the added code lines of their commits are modified by the commits of other authors. To explore the relevance of our target problem from the perspective of commits, we count how many commits of an author are modified by other commits. We got the finding 1. The commits of transient authors are often either totally modified or never modified, but commits of co-authors are more stable. For most co-authors, 80% of their commits are modified by later commits. RQ2. How many authors does a source file have? The commits of a file build up the latest code lines and true authors of a file. To explore the impacts of our target problem from the perspective of the latest files, we count the number of authors for each file. In extreme cases, the modifications of an author can be totally rewritten by other authors. In this research question, we explored how frequently such cases happen. We got the finding 2. Although some programmers appear in the commits of a file, they shall not be considered as a true author of the file because their modifications do not appear in the latest files. The percent of such authors varies from 10% to 60%. We also got the finding 3. In total, 75.4% of source files are written by multiple programmers, and most files have 5 authors. RQ3. What are the proportions of contributed code lines if a source file is written by more than one author? In RQ2, we found that about 75% of source files are written by more than one author. When a file has more than one author, the contributed code lines of the authors can be quite different. In RQ3, we explore the distributions of those greatest and least contributions. We got the findings for the contributions of authors follow the famous Pareto principle, and most files have minor modifications, which can be contributed by transient programmers or the practice of pair programming. RQ4. How many modified lines are hidden? For those approaches which use lines of code to measure development cost of a source file, the development cost is also hidden in file revision histories. We got the finding 5. For most files, the added lines over total visible lines are between 1 and 2. However, there are some extreme cases in which the ratios are more than 10. RQ5. How do open source projects attract programmers? A healthy open source project shall attract programmers. In RQ5, we analyzed the attractions. We got the finding 6. Although some programmers attract more programmers than others, it is more difficult to attract long-term programmers. We also got the funding 7. Most programmers make a commit and modified about 30 lines each programming day. We interpret our findings. First, the challenges of identifying authors. Funding 2 and 3 show that most source files are written by multiple code authors. And our results shows some potential opportunities and challenges of identifying multiple code authors, such as data imbalance and uneven data distribution problem. Second, the invisible authors of code lines. For example, it has been a hot research topic to estimate the development cost of a source file. Typically, these approaches use lines of code to measure development cost. Funding 5 shows that there are many invisible lines of code behind those visible ones, and the ratio can be high. Instead of those visible lines, those invisible lines can be a better indicator of the development cost. Third, the comparison with commercial projects. Funding 6 and 7 shows the activity of programmers in open source development, and some numbers look low. However, our results are not indicators for the efficiency of either open source or commercial paradigm. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Okay. For the code authors hidden in file revision history paper, any question for Siyi? Okay, I have one question. So from your presentation, you say there are some transient authors that their code changes are replaced or rewritten in the commit history, right?
Yes.
So in your opinion, do you think these kind of authors are supposed to also be to get some attribution for their work? What do you think?
I think yes, they contributed to the source file, but from my findings,
Hello?
hello?
Yeah, well, we got some communication issue.
Yes.
Okay. I think you can continue now.
To the source file, but their modification his files.
Okay. So what would be the future can be
Okay, in future work, we plan to conduct in-depth investigations on more challenges of identifying authors and their author stories behind source files. In addition, due to the availability of data sources, we analyze only open source projects in this study, but we plan to and let's draw more general conclusions.
Okay, last one from Sridhar. Just curious, is it possible to trace authors who are beyond the project, like the code that copy from Stack Overflow or GitHub?
It's possible. No, I don't think so.